Do you realize how big of a deal this is? Just kidding. Okay, but really.
I think a fall angel just walked by.
Hi. So, the US Trans Survey for 2015 came out, and I am like beyond excited. I thought we should just go through it together, and I'll just read some of the important ones to you, but I wanted to start first off by saying a little bit of why this is so important. Basically, if you know about basic scientific research, you have to have a certain pool, like it has to have a certain large amount of people, and the larger amount of people, the more accurate your results are. So with generally with trans issues, and it's not very well researched right now. And the older survey was just about harassment, and this is more about like life in general, because so much about this is just educating yourself. So this survey is important because not only educates people on all of the things going wrong, basically creating some social stigma and harming such a large group of people, because it is larger than we thought, but also 28,000 people participated in this survey, which is huge. That's pretty much gives this survey all of what it needs to have enough like foundation for people to take it seriously. So that's why I'm excited. I'll just quote Joe Biden. At the very beginning, it gives a basic summary of things. There's like an executive summary. Kind of explains how this is different than the 2008 to 2009 survey, because it still wasn't as openly talked about as it is now. I mean, not that it is now. Instead of that, creating more trans people, as some people are saying, like, it's giving people a way to actually express it for the first time, because it's so taboo. I mean, you can get killed for this, you can get harassed, as this survey shows. We'll start with the good one. They start off with family life and faith communities. I think family is a little bit more central to the most amount of people. And I was surprised to see that a majority of respondents, 60%, who are out to their immediate family that they grew up with, said that their family was generally supportive of their trans identity. So that's pretty damn good for how much this is not widely accepted in society. I mean, it's not the best, obviously. This is where it just quickly escalates. Negative experiences amongst those with supportive and unsupportive families. There's a chart and it shows the difference. 54% attempted suicide who has families who are unsupportive, which is not a shocking statistic in terms of like why. It's a shocking statistic in just like the gravity of that. Important stuff here. I took this survey, so I'm one of the 28,000 people. They asked the questions in relation to being trans. It's not like just in general how these people, it has to be like related to whether you're trans or not. Only 11% reported that all of their IDs had the name and gender that they preferred, which, I mean, and 2/3 reported that none of their IDs had what they preferred, which scares me because of the recent presidential election. Health insurance and health care. So 25% experienced a problem in the past year with their insurance related to being trans. So that's not just in regards to hormones or transitioning, it's also just like for routine checkups. There's a lot that you need to see a doctor right away. It's like life or death or life altering types of things that you should have access to doctors, but the reality is that not very many people do if you're trans or in a minority position. 33% did not see a doctor when they needed to because they could not afford it. A lot of this has to do with economic stuff. For now, the psychological distress and attempted suicide is like pretty disturbing, so hold on. We're gonna get through this part. 39% of respondents experienced serious psychological distress. So there's like a Kessler distress scale, and that has to do with like how likely you are to have PTSD and whole different types of trauma responses. One of the main things, if you're in economical danger and you can't get food or access to basic, very, very basic things, that is like puts you at the very top risk category. So that statistic makes sense. 40% have attempted suicide in their lifetime, which is really awful because I really like how they added the regular statistics for the rest of the population, because it says nearly 9 times the rate in the US population, which is 4.6% compared to 40%. Like this, that's a big deal. That alone shows just why. I mean, there's something happening here. People aren't just like randomly killing themselves. There's a lot that goes into that, that leads into that. 7% attempted suicide in the past year, which is nearly 12 times the rate in the US population, which is 6%. So the 40% is in their lifetime, 7% in the past year. Deep breath, keep moving, it gets worse. HIV is kind of a death sentence for a lot of people. So the US population, only 0.3%, so not even 1%, like 0.3% are living with HIV. 1.4% of trans people are living with HIV. And of course, it's higher among trans women, which really sucks, and trans women of color. Later on, they're going to talk about like sex work, and a lot of that has to do with it because you don't really have a choice in terms of like keeping yourself safe. Kind of jumps weirdly, so experiences in schools next. More than 3/4, so 77% of those who are out or perceived as trans at some point in their kindergarten through all the way to 12th grade, they experience some form of mistreatment. For most people, this is like before the age of 18, which is obviously the main part in your development, where people's words and actions, how they perceive you, especially like for something vulnerable, is more likely to affect you for the rest of your life. 24% were physically attacked for being out or perceived as trans, and 13% were sexually assaulted because of being trans in school. That's disturbing. From what I found, a lot of that comes from the teachers on top of the students. Like the students aren't as bad as the teachers. But that's how it is around where I live, and I know in other places it's just generally pretty terrible because people are uneducated about this topic. So what I was mentioning before, income and employment status, these ones are also very disturbing. The unemployment rate for trans people, 3 times higher than the entire US population. And of course, in terms of race or ethnicity, people of color have a way worse time because America, right? 23% reported housing discrimination in the past year, such as being evicted from their home or denied a place to live because they were transgender. A lot of that probably got even worse this year because of the election and who the vice president-elect is, because things like the Religious Freedom Act served to provide like a loophole in order to deny things like housing or basic needs to people because of like religious beliefs. A lot of people who are just like have a partner already have experienced that, but trans people don't even need to like obviously have a partner in order for that to happen. In the past year alone, 1 in 8, so 12%, experienced homelessness because of being trans. So again, all of these things are directly related to being trans, which is why this is so important, because it definitely shows there's like no denying that that is the answer to this question. In terms of sex work and other, they're calling it underground economy work. 1 in 5 trans people participated in the underground economy for some point, at some point in their lives. This part is about police interactions in prisons. A lot of people, like particularly trans women of color and sex workers, are targeted, experienced some form of mistreatment by police because they thought that they were trans. So just harassment and violence in general as another category. 46% were verbally harassed in the past year because of being trans. I'm definitely included in that. 9% were physically attacked in the past year. So these are all in the past year only. A lot can happen throughout your lifetime. 47% of respondents were sexually assaulted at some point in their lifetime. 10% were sexually assaulted in the past year. Especially if you've done sex work, especially if you're homeless and disabled. There's a trend here. America, once again. 54% have experienced some form of intimate partner violence. That means like someone's manipulating you into doing something or physically harming you in some way, and they're like an intimate partner of yours. 54%. Then the restrooms topic. So 1 in 9, so almost 1 in 9, 9% of respondents reported that someone denied them access to a restroom in the past year. Once again, thank you, Mike Pence. 12% reported being physically harassed, 1% physically harassed, 1% sexually assaulted while using the restroom only. Okay, people are just trying to go to the bathroom. Okay, I'm gonna keep going because I'm just gonna get more and more mad. Okay, more than half, 59% avoided using the public restroom in the past year because they're afraid of other like things that they might experience. Probably other than just having to take a shit. I think it just shows like how low of a level of mistreatment it goes. Like it's one of the examples of basic things that everyone needs to do. That is like their basic overview. I just wanted to go through that with you in case you didn't want to physically read it. I wanted to read it out loud. What I find most interesting about this, in regards to the whole situation, I can be excited about something that shows something so terrible. I mean, because of how important it is to get information out there, a lot of the harassment is literally due to just people not knowing what it is. They haven't researched it, have never probably even heard of it. It's something that they don't understand, which in psychology, if someone's like an other or like an outsider to a group of people, it's exponentially more likely for them to be harassed. And the reason that trans people are considered by so many people to be an other is because we don't talk about it. There's no like substantial evidence, which now this is, with that many pools of people, and they took a year to go over it. They explain how they filtered it out. All of that, you can read about it if you want to. It's legitimate to the amount that it can't be disproved scientifically, which is just a major boost, and it's something that I would like to see what happens because of this. It's just interesting to use the gravity of it and how many people are affected to show and make a positive change. I think that's something that we could all take and apply it to other pieces of our lives. So I think overall this is a big step in the right direction. So tell me what you think about this and look through it yourself. And it was all adults, so all else aside, we still have not really covered how much this affects children. I know that other things have tried to say that trans children are way more likely to commit suicide, which I'm sure is true, but it doesn't have the gravity and weight that this has. So let me know what you think. I'm gonna stop talking about this. This has been a long video. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. There goes a sight from my soul.